believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space.
What up? It's your boy Rob Clark welcoming you to the 22 November Network. Get ready for another exciting edition of the Lone Gunman Podcast featuring me. That's right, your boy Rob Clark coming at you. Stay tuned.
That's right.
Be right there. What is up, my people, and welcome to the Lone Gunman Podcast. This is your boy Rob Clark coming at you for another exciting edition of the Lone Gunman Podcast, episode number 33, the Masonic episode. The Masons did it. Nah, I'm just joking with you. That's a joke. The Masons didn't do it. Some of the people that did it might have been Masons, but it was not a Masonic conspiracy. And here it is, I'm recording this on Columbus Day, of all days. And since that snafu with the lost episode, I got my days all screwy now. I don't even know what day it is or what day I'm supposed to be putting out an episode. But you know what? Today was a good day. In the immortal words of Ice Cube, today was a good day. You know why today was a good day? Not only has the rain gone away and the sun come out, a lot of good things happened to your boy today. Lots of good things. For one, this very show, the Lone Gunman Podcast, and also Doug Campbell's excellent podcast, The Dallas Action, both were accepted by Stitcher. Okay? Now, Stitcher is going to be kind of the new home for our podcast from the 22 November Network because I believe it provides an easier kind of format, an easier navigation, an easier app to use, which I would encourage everyone to do, is to go get the Stitcher app. And you can find it in the App Store on iTunes or Android. Because I've heard a lot of people with iPhones or iPads or Apple products in general have been having problems getting to our podcast through Spreaker, which that's not cool at all. So the solution to that, of course, would be to eventually get the show on iTunes, ideally. But as it stands right now, me and Doug do not have a computer. So, and we both have Android devices. So it's not like we can go sign up for iTunes and submit the show the right way, the way they want it done. So for now, the best we can do, we're trying to get it, in as many places as possible so that it's accessible to all people that want to listen. But I'm going to highly recommend getting the Stitcher app. And even if you don't get the Stitcher app, it should take you right there on the browser, right to the episode. Bam, just like that. No more wading through stuff. No more it taking you immediately to the Play Store. God damn. Forgot to turn the ringer down. Sorry about that. No more taking you directly to the Play Store. Hang on a second. Turn this shit down. Okay. Yeah, it should be very streamlined. It should work correctly. I know before people had trouble with the Spreaker links trying to get you to go straight to the Play Store and get the app and sign up for something you maybe didn't want to sign up for. This way, it's an option, and the reason I recommend it is this: there is a ton, and I mean a ton, of excellent podcasts and excellent radio shows on Stitcher. It is the biggest collection of it has over 15,000 podcasts. And a lot of these podcasts are actual radio shows that are breaking down into segments like, hour-long shows or whatever it is. And they feature some of the biggest shows out there if you're in the kind of the truth movement, or you're into politics or sports or anything like that. I mean, it's huge. It's got the Conspiracy Show out of Canada on there. It's got Darkness Radio on there. It's got Red Ice Radio on there. All kinds. I mean, it's just, if you're into the paranormal, it's just got so many shows on there. It's crazy. And I didn't have it before I submitted the show and signed up for it. But I'm glad I did, because I've been listening all day to different shows. And it's really cool because it's pretty much, you're pretty much streaming everything. You don't have to sit there and download and clog up your memory with all this, all these useless megabytes of my stupid voice talking to you. But yeah, that's some exciting news right there. That's a big deal. And, of course, you can still listen to Spreaker if you like. That's cool. However you want to do it, I'm just recommending that, getting your hands on that Stitcher app. It's the free app. And I've noticed you will get some pop-up ads, kind of like YouTube, like at the beginning of a podcast, or possibly it might stop in the middle and give you an advertisement. But drop the money on the premium app. That way you get rid of the ads. And the good thing about Stitcher is, if you'd like to support our show and the Dallas Action Show, it's a way for us to collect a little money without actually having to ask you for it. What they do is it's basically like YouTube, where they share the revenue across the board, and they get that revenue from advertisers or people that pay the premium subscription price, which is not much for the premium app, and that eliminates your ads. Or have the free app and you'll get the ads. Either way, we get a little something out of it, and I don't know what it is because we haven't gotten checks yet. I assume it's not much. I'm sure it's like YouTube. I think you get $1 for every 1,000 views. So it's not much, okay, but it's something. And I don't even expect to get 1,000 listens on any episode. You know what I'm saying? And even if I do, if that's just $1, I mean, it's whatever. But it's better than nothing. The only other alternative is asking for donations, which we fortunately haven't had to do yet. But something we can't exactly rule out in the future either. If we'd ever like to, upgrade the way we do a show, if we want to have more collaborative shows in the future, if we want to be able to actually maybe open up the phone lines, do live shows, get guests, and have it not be, what's the word I'm looking for, so unprofessional. We want to be taken seriously as broadcasters, and it's kind of hard to do when you don't have a computer, you don't have, a great Skype number or a conference call capability or things like that. a microphone, a setup, a pop filter, a mixer. There's all kinds of stuff that you need to actually sound like a professional podcaster or have a professional type show. And of course, me and Doug have none of this, but hopefully this little excursion we got on Stitcher will help. That's, one reason I'm happy today. So yeah, check us out on Stitcher now, the home of, podcast, period. And we're happy to be there. And yes, please check us out over there. If you like our show, make sure you give us the thumbs up. There's a little thumbs up deal, on there. Just hit it. It's just like a like button, just saying you like it. Make sure you add us to your favorites so you can find us easily on Spreaker, on your app. You get turned on to other shows while you're on there too. There's lots and literally thousands of professional sounding, professionally made podcasts and shows that you have heard of before that just weren't available on Spreaker. Spreaker is mostly just people like me, unprofessionals, or people just playing music, things like that. But this app, Stitcher, is for podcasting. It's for podcasters, and it's for listeners. It's very easy to use. It's streamlined. It's great. I can't say enough good things about it. So check us out on our new home, Stitcher. Secondly, a good friend of mine. I've known him for a couple years here on Facebook. Talk to him quite regularly. Pat Beaumier. I hope I'm saying your name right. It's either Beaumier or Beaumier. I think it's Beaumier. Has a new show on Spreaker that just came out today called Truth Glasses. And the reason it's called Truth Glasses is if you've ever seen the movie They Live, and you see Roddy Piper when he puts his glasses on, it's like a 5-minute montage. He's looking all around the city. There's billboards that says obey or marry and reproduce, or it's in every sign that there's a message, and you can see the fake alien people, or whatever they are. You can see them with these special glasses on, and they help you see the truth. And that's what Pat wants to do in his new show, is help you see the truth. And today, his first debut episode is about Columbus Day, and the little myths behind Columbus Day, and cool facts that you might not have known about, and about Christopher Columbus, and the truth behind the day itself. So if you would like to check out Pat's excellent podcast and support him on his debut effort, I put up a link on my personal page on Facebook. I am going to put a link to it on our 22 November page for this podcast. Please check it out. I know you're going to like it because Pat's an awesome guy. He's very knowledgeable on a wide variety of topics, when it comes to truths and conspiracies and cover-ups and symbology and JFK, everything. I mean, he's a great dude, nice guy. You're going to like the show, I'm telling you. So head over, check it out, give Pat some love. Make sure you let him know that I sent you. And like his podcast and share it. His debut effort is very, very excellent. Very, very good. So check him out. So, it's a good day in the neighborhood here at the Lone Gunman Podcast. And I'm in such a good mood. Today, we are going to talk about 2 potential assassins of JFK. Now, the first potential assassin that we're going to get into a little bit is named Jack Lawrence. Now, for those of you who know the Jack Lawrence story, fast forward a couple minutes. For those of you who don't know the Jack Lawrence story, I'll give it to you briefly. Excuse me. The Jack Lawrence story goes a little something like this. Jack Lawrence enters the narrative of the Kennedy assassination somewhere around mid-October, which is the same time a lot of people in this narrative like to show up, somewhere around mid-October. And it's the same time that the next guy that I'm going to talk about as a potential assassin shows up. Okay, but right now we're talking about Jack Lawrence. Okay? Now, Jack Lawrence was an ex-military expert marksman. sniper. Okay, expert marksman. He would win contests. Okay, now, interesting thing about Jack Lawrence is he worked at the downtown Lincoln Mercury dealership where there was an alleged Oswald sighting. Okay, if you remember back to when supposedly Lee Oswald went to this Lincoln Mercury dealership and test drove a car, and he took the guy out for a ride, and he was going extremely fast and driving crazy and erratic, and he basically said that he would be back because he was about to come into a large amount of money, and things like this don't cost as much in Russia. He said, he told the guy that he lived in Russia. So it's a very important little part of this narrative, and it kind of ties into the next fellow I'm going to talk about. But just remember, downtown Lincoln Mercury dealership, there's an Oswald sighting. I think it's in early November. When he's trying to test drive a car and talking about buying it and said he'd be back or whatever. Now, Jack Lawrence had worked at the place, a little over a month and a half. Never sold a car. Okay, now, I don't know what the, seniority or the ladder is at a dealership, or how things work, where the most senior guys get all the easy pickings, the people that walk in and already know what they want, or they know they're going to buy something, whereas the bottom rung salesmen actually have to work and try to sell and convince people that maybe you're just there, not for sure. But either way, Jack Lawrence didn't sell shit. He never sold a car, and he was living at the YMCA in Dallas, which is also important because Lee Oswald spent some time at the YMCA, supposedly around the beginning of October, and a couple other fellas also spent some time at the YMCA. William Seymour, Lawrence Howard, and Lauren Hall. And they're important if you know who they are. And if you don't know who they are by now, well, shame on you. Go listen to the Dallas Action. Or Google them. Anyway, back to Jack Lawrence. He's staying at the YMCA. And a couple weeks ago, I guess when I was doing my Tippett episode, I was looking at the call log for the Dallas Police Department, the radio call log. And at about 3:30 or 4 o'clock that day, there was an episode that I'd never heard about before. And I'd never seen anywhere before, and I'd never seen it since, or anything further about it. There was an explosion reported at the YMCA at about 3:30 or 4 o'clock. And then nothing else is said about it. Now, why is this significant? Well, maybe, if you had just shot at the President of the United States and it was time to go and leave town, maybe you would want to set a fire or, erase any trace of where you were staying, or if you had to leave things behind, you maybe wanted to burn them up, or maybe burn the whole damn place down, and destroy any records thereof, or something like that. And maybe the explosion was an accidental byproduct of a fire. It's hard to tell. I doubt he had a bomb in there or anything like that. But maybe an oil tank or something blew up, and but it's hard to tell because we have nothing further on it. But the Jack Lawrence story is an odd one, because what was reported to the FBI by his fellow co-workers at the Lincoln Mercury dealership were his strange actions on November 22nd, 1963. Now, he was supposed to be at work about 9 o'clock that morning, I assume, You know, I assume that's their work day, 9 to 5 or whatever. It is mostly that around here at car dealerships, 9 to 5, typical day. And, well, on this particular day, he was late. Like, not a little bit late. Like, 4 hours late. Okay? And it's significant because he had borrowed a demonstrator car on Thursday, the 21st, to take home with him, which he had never done before. And he shows up at the dealership, at about 1:30 or 2 o'clock, and covered in dirt, head to toe, muddy, wet, looking like shit, and he's in the bathroom throwing up and splashing water on his face, and he tells this wild tale of, that he had stayed out late the night before and got really, really drunk, and he had overslept, and, he was trying to get into work. He couldn't get through Dealey Plaza. They had it all pretty much shut down the time he was trying to get through there. So he decided to park his car and proceed to work on foot. Now, he decided to park his car in a very interesting spot. Out of all the places in Dallas, okay, where you could park a car, okay, he decides to park his car behind the grassy knoll fence. Now, this is a little significant for a couple reasons. Because in all the footage I've seen and things like that from that day, I never heard of traffic just being at a dead stop on Elm Street trying to get to the Stemmons Freeway. It was either there was even traffic moving through there after the assassination. Just think back to Roger Craig. Now this is some 10-20 minutes after the assassination. People are still going through Elm Street in their cars. Okay, now I'm sure there was a time, maybe by a half an hour or so after the assassination, where they finally got Elm Street blocked off, and you were sent either down in Houston or Maine. Maybe you would have got hung up there one way or the other. But his story about getting caught on Elm Street just doesn't jive. And another thing that bothers me about his story is that the lot back there that he parked in was leased to the Dallas Sheriff's Office. Now, what stood out in my mind is from Brian Edwards and Casey Quinlan's presentation at the conference about Ed Hoffman, the deaf mute, who says he witnessed things, behind the fence line. And one of the things that he witnessed behind the fence line was a green Nash Rambler pull up to the gate there on the Elm Street extension, which was, the entrance to the lot. And they got out and they had to unlock the gate with a key and open the gate and proceed in. Now, I don't know if this is the only way in or out of that parking lot, but unless Jack Lawrence had a key, I don't think he could have gotten in that lot, especially after the assassination. That place was crawling with cops and everybody else, trying to figure out what's going on. I don't think they were letting people leave, and I don't think they were letting people in. So right there tells you is a big red flag about his story. He kind of drifts into town at about that time, about mid-October, and then this weird episode happens at the dealership, okay? And he said he remembered, one of the guys saying, "Hey, I remember that guy, Lee Oswald. Go get me his paperwork." And he recommended that they call the FBI and call it in and say, "Hey, this guy was in here, test driving a car." And he's like, "Nah, it's not important, let it go." But anyway, shortly after he arrived there on foot without his car, he was called into the manager's office and given his last paycheck and said that, it's time they parted ways. We can't have you showing up this late for work. We can't trust you with our vehicles. You haven't sold anything. It's time to part ways. And, he proceeds to mosey his way on out of town. And for an ex-military expert marksman / sniper, to be drifting in and out of town like this and his mysterious occupations, because apparently this place had a high turnover. I think for the month of November, they had hired and let go 9 of their people, 9 salesmen, which, is odd. I don't know about the turnover rate in the car sale business, but to me that seems a little high. But, whatever is whatever. So there we have one, ex-military, expert marksman sniper, drifting into the narrative and getting the hell out as soon as it's over. Now, I should also add this caveat that supposedly, he denies this version of events, which of course he is, if he is a sniper or an assassin. Of course he's going to deny this version of events ever happened. And I think that he was caught up with in the early 90s, and he turned up to be a pastor or something at some church in West Virginia, which, he's a pastor now, but he wasn't always a pastor. And maybe he was turned to that life after what he did, or, I could see that. If a man did something that bad, the only place to turn if it was bothering him that much is to turn to God and ask for forgiveness and basically preach for the rest of his life about God. So, does it make sense? Yeah, it makes sense. Does that mean he's being honest now? No. But he denies that whole version of events of him leaving the car behind the grassy knoll and, him showing up all dirty and sickly and all that. He denies all that, just for the official record there. Now, moving on to another possible assassin, sniper, we get to the strange tale of Larry Crafard. And I'm not sure exactly how you say his name, but I'm going to say it Crafard. Larry Curtis Laverne Crafard is his full name. People call him Larry. Now, Larry drifts into the narrative, shocker, about mid-October, where he supposedly meets Jack Ruby at some kind of a carnival or something that was coming through town there in Dallas. And Ruby asked him to come work for him, be his little boy Friday, his jack of all trades, his handyman, his bartender, his little bitch boy, whatever he was. He was just whatever Jack Ruby asked of him, this guy did. Bartender, bouncer, whatever, this guy did it all. And so this guy left the carnival life, and he had met, or the reason he was in Texas is he had followed a woman there and married her, but it didn't work out. So he was just traveling around with the carnival, whatever, and it was still based in Dallas there at that time. And he was local, and this is supposedly where Jack Ruby met him. Okay. Now, something about the timeline doesn't jive, according to when you hear Ruby tell the story, or when you hear George Senator tell the story, or when you hear Larry Crafard tells the story. But that's for another day. Now, the important thing about Larry Crafard is that he looked a hell of a lot like Lee Oswald. Okay? As did Jack Lawrence. Okay? Now, I believe old Larry looked a little bit more like Oswald than Jack Lawrence did. But Jack Lawrence was a young man, about the same age, short dark hair, clean shaven, at a glance could be taken for Lee Oswald, you know what I'm saying? But Larry might have survived a more closer inspection. So much so that I've been reading Joachim Jostin's book, Oswald, The Truth. And Joachim Jostin is an interesting character. He's an early I won't even call him a critic, because he had shit out before the Warren Report even came out. 4 months before the Warren Commission findings came out, he had a book out called Oswald, Assassin or Fall Guy. And it's chock full of info. He must have had an inside source somewhere in the police department or in the FBI or something, because he knew all kinds of stuff. And this is before the Warren Commission had even came out with their report. Okay, and he's the author of at least 4 or 5 books, about the assassination. He was big in the 60s. Joachim Jostin. And anyway, in his book, The Truth, Oswald, The Truth, he takes a hard look at old Larry. And he believes that it was Larry Crafard who was doing a lot of the Oswald impersonating. Now, Jostin believes that it was Larry Crafard who was actually overheard talking to Jack Ruby about assassinating Governor Connolly from the famous Carol Jarnigan conversation that was supposedly overheard by him. He was a Dallas attorney at the time that claims that he had overheard a conversation in the Carousel Club between Jack Ruby and H.L. Lee, somebody calling themselves H.L. Lee, and that they were talking about assassinating Governor Connolly. Supposedly because, Jack Ruby was upset that he wouldn't parole a bunch of, bad guys or mobsters, and he wasn't going along with the program. He wasn't helping things out in Dallas or Texas for that matter. Wasn't making it organized crime friendly. And I guess he viewed Connolly as an enemy of, stuff that he was doing. But Jostin seems to think that it was actually Larry Crafard and not Oswald. He also thinks it was Larry Crafard that was seen in the downtown Lincoln Mercury dealership, not Oswald. He also thinks it was Larry Crafard at the shooting range and not Oswald. He also thinks it was Larry Crafard in the B&B, the Lucas B&B, at 2:30 in the morning the night before the assassination, and not Lee Oswald in there meeting with Jack Ruby. And he goes through his book, and he details all this stuff. And the odd thing about Larry Crafard, and this has always troubled me with him, is he was from Michigan. He somehow made his way to Oregon and California before, joining this traveling carnival or whatnot, and then making his way to Dallas, entering the narrative. Somehow by chance or miracle meeting up with Jack Ruby and, becoming his guy. And then the day after the assassination, Larry Crafard is bouncing. He's like, he takes up some money out of the Carousel Club's register, and he's like, I'm out. Peace, bitches. Okay? Now, this is before Ruby shoots Oswald. It's after the assassination. It's Saturday morning. After, Jack Ruby had exhibited a little strange behavior by grabbing Larry Crafard and George Senator and taking them out on this, what he called, like a wild goose chase to take pictures of the impeach Earl Warren signs, which he thought was a clue because the P.O. boxes on that sign and the one on the advertisement for, Kennedy wanted for treason posters were very close and similar. He thought he was onto something. Now, what that whole episode means, I have no idea. Because, I think Jack Ruby knew what the hell was going on. I think he was into it up to his nutsack. So I don't know what he was doing there. Maybe going frantic. But here's what I think happened. I think somehow J.D. Tippit rolled up on Larry Crafard. And I think Crafard was a shooter. And you got to remember, this is, half an hour after the shooting. So he's probably amped up, freaked out, scared shitless. J.D. Tippit rolls up on him and he panics. I don't know if he knew him or not or whatever, but this is 4 blocks from Ruby's house. He panics. Tippit gets shot. He's running away, emptying his gun. Poor, stupid, dumb cop, whatever. He takes the jacket off, stows it somewhere. And then, supposedly, he's freaked out and makes his way to the Texas Theater. Now, where it gets real interesting is that the jacket that the Oswald assassin ditched, it was like a white Eisenhower-type waist jacket, which Crafard was known to wear. In fact, I have a picture of him wearing one quite similar that I'll post up on the website. You can go check out. And when they checked the jacket, Marina said, that's not Lee's. He never had a jacket like that. And the jacket had dry cleaning tags in it from California. Now, putting two and two together here, Sherlock Holmes style, who else do we know that we knew spent time in California? Excuse me. Knew spent time in California. Wore jackets very similar to what was found. And had acquaintances with Jack Ruby, that being that close to his apartment. Larry Crafard. Okay? Now, I suspect that the early morning meeting between George Senator, Larry Crafard, and Jack Ruby was not out taking pictures of Earl Warren signs. I imagine it involved a lot of Larry Crafard freaking out, Jack Ruby freaking out, and George Senator trying to figure out what the hell was going on, or being there to placate Ruby. Whatever happened at that meeting, you're looking at 6 hours later, Crafard's got his hand in the cookie jar, taking money, and hitchhiking his way out of town. Like, he don't even wait for a ride. He's hitchhiking out of town. Now, the FBI, catches up to him, and he gives him the sanitized version, his version of events, and how he came to meet Ruby, and what he was doing for Ruby. And very interesting, something else that I ran across about Larry Crafard, and it's from Gaten Fonzie, of all people. In his speech, when he was presented the Lancer Pioneer Award, the Mary Fair Lancer Pioneer Award, back in 1998, and I'm going to read it to you right now. Is there any doubt that the Warren Commission deliberately set out not to tell the American people the truth? There is a brief glimpse, an illustration of the level at which that deceit was carried out in an incident that occurred during the Warren Commission's investigation. One of many. Commission Chairman Earl Warren himself, a rarity, with then Representative Gerald Ford at his side, was interviewing a barman, Curtis Laverne Crafard. Crafard had worked at Jack Ruby's Carousel Club before he was seized by FBI men as he was hightailing it out of town the day after the assassination, having told someone, "They are not going to pin this on me." Okay, so he was paranoid. He was freaking out, and he must have had good reason to. Okay? And in the interview, Earl Warren asked Crafard what he did before he was a bartender. Now, I want you to listen closely to his answer. "I was a master sniper in the Marine Corps, sir," Crafard answered. Let that sink in for a minute, people. I was a master sniper in the Marine Corps, Crafard answered. Now, the very next question that Earl Warren asked him, instead of following up on that very damning statement of I was a master sniper in the Marine Corps, was, what kind of entertainment did they have at the club? Now, come on, man. You can't tell me the Warren Commission was not interested in finding out what the hell happened. Okay? For one, the man just told you he was a master sniper in the Marine Corps, showing up at just the right time to be in town for all this stuff and getting the hell out of town the day after. And you ask him what kind of entertainment did they have at a titty club. Okay? They had strippers, they had music, they had dancing, and they had comics. And a whole lot of titties. Okay? Now, that just illustrates, what the Warren Commission was all about. They weren't interested in finding the truth. They didn't want to find the participants or the actors. They were interested in pinning this on Oswald and obfuscating the truth with as much lies and bullshit and meaningless facts as they possibly could throw at you. Okay? They put this in an 800 and some page book. They put it in a 26 volume appendices and buried it in a mountain of useless information. Okay? So here we have an expert marksman. Here we have a master sniper. Both ex-military. Both in Dallas at the exact same time, at the exact same place, being around the narrative of the assassination. Now, I'm no dummy, but it sure as hell sounds suspicious to me. Anyway, that is it for this episode number 33 of The Lone Gunman. This sumbitch is in the can, up to the satellite, down to your ears. Rob Clark is out.